Antes, había instituciones públicas que proporcionaban a los agricultores análisis objetivos sobre las nuevas tecnologías.
Universities started playing an important role in asking questions about this back then in the 70s, but soon enough it was evident that we did not want to have universities asking questions. So there was a big influx of money from industry to support research at universities, and that led to research that was favorable to the development of the industry and publicity that was simply promotional of the technologies.
The reality is that in our land-grant university system, and certainly in the U.S. Department of Agriculture, there's a small tolerance for people doing research that directly challenges the conventional wisdom.
It's ridiculous. You know, the recent work that we've done on the movement of transgenes in corn in the Centers of Diversification was run on $2,000. Compare that to $25 million coming the other way, and exactly my college. And that is the only piece of work that I know is actually happening.
La industria biotecnológica ataca a los científicos cuyas investigaciones cuestionan la seguridad y el impacto de los cultivos transgénicos. El reconocido investigador Arpad Pusztai fue suspendido 2 días después de discutir públicamente su investigación sobre la inhibición del sistema inmune de ratas alimentadas con papas genéticamente modificadas. John Losey, de la Universidad de Cornell, descubrió que cuando las orugas de la mariposa monarca comieron polen de maíz BT en el laboratorio, 40% murieron inesperadamente. Su investigación fue denigrada por la industria biotecnológica. La revista Nature retractó el artículo de Ignacio Chapela, un trabajo dictaminado entre pares. Los aliados de la biotecnología cuestionaron sus interpretaciones.
Biology was a very diverse field of inquiry, but because of the advent of this technology, we are seeing a narrowing down and a trimming off of all those branches of biology just to the benefit of this one side. And I very much want to fight against that. Just as we are losing genetic diversity, we are losing intellectual diversity that we are going to find very, very needed in the future.
The conventional wisdom in the U.S. today is that ag biotechnology is progress. There's not a lot of encouragement for young scientists to carry out research that might raise questions about that basic judgment.
El control corporativo de la investigación genética no se limita al campo de la agricultura.
They allowed the patenting of one of the genes responsible for breast cancer. And many researchers who'd been working on a cure for breast cancer were no longer allowed to use that gene in their research because another company had patented it and charged them very, very high fees. Some of the major pharmaceutical companies have gone into university laboratories and sued those laboratories and sued researchers who are using the genes that they own. This is probably the largest private takings of what should be the commons that we all own in common that you could possibly imagine. And I think one of the most disturbing economic trends of our times.
Mientras las empresas biotecnológicas toman control en el ámbito intelectual y la ingeniería genética se apodera del nivel celular, las multinacionales se afianzan a nivel mundial consolidando las fuentes de alimentos.
The combination of Kraft and Nabisco creates a real global leader in the food industry. Scale is a real advantage in this industry. As Kraft has proven, it increases both efficiency and effectiveness.
The average citizen doesn't really understand both the momentum and the extent to which consolidation is taking place in our whole food and agriculture system. Just to give you a couple of examples, 80% of our beef products now are being processed by just 4 companies. In seed companies, the vast majority of the seed that farmers plant now comes from just 4 clusters of companies. And what's even more worrisome now is in the last decade, that same kind of concentration has been taking place in the retail sector. And Heffernan now projects that in the next 10 years, all of the food in the retail level in the world will be controlled by 6 retail firms, only one of which will be American, and that's Walmart. Now that means that increasingly we're not going to have any choice about what's on the shelves in our supermarkets. What's going to be there is what some broker in a consolidated firm decides is going to return the largest profit.
One of the problems that the biotechnology industry has is that it's done nothing for the American consumer. There's nothing there. There's no genetically engineered food that does anything, no more nutrition, nothing for us. So how are they going to sell this technology to the American people? Well, they've come up with this idea that maybe biotechnology should be sold as the way to feed a starving world.
With world population expected to increase by 2 billion people in the next 30 years, biotechnology could provide an important way to produce enough food.
One major problem with that, the reason why about 800 million people starve every day, and that is a tragic fact, has nothing to do with the amount of food available. Most of these people around the world who are starving used to be farmers, but because of the World Bank and the National Monetary Fund giving huge loans to these countries could no longer allow for subsistence farming. They had to grow expensive export crops back to the first world to pay back those loans. So they kicked all these hundreds of millions of farmers off their farms. They end up in the Bhopals and the Mexico cities and the Brasilias of the world without money. They no longer are growing their own food, and they're competing for the scarce jobs available in the new industrialization of these countries. They are no longer food independent. They're food dependent.
Amartya Sen, a Pulitzer Prize-winning economist, after a decade of work, pointed out again and again that the problem of hunger is not a production problem, it's an access problem. It's getting entitlement to food, not producing food, that's the problem. We're in fact overproducing the major commodities to the extent where farmers can't recover their production costs. And so we have huge subsidies. You know, we have 800 million people on this planet right now who are malnourished in an era of overproduction where farmers can't recover their production costs.
Cuando los países ricos subsidian sus cultivos, golpean los mercados de los países en vías de desarrollo.